Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, and we're here with comic Matt Storrs. Matt Storrs, how the hell are you?
I'm doing well.
Oh,
I'm
good.
Doing well.
Go real quick. If people want to find you do stand-up comedy on stage in New York City, where do they do that? And also, where can they find you online?
So I am part of a sketch group called Infinite Sketch. So I do that.
Yeah, that's big, right?
Yeah, it's good. It's
Is
going
it
well.
out of the Pit?
Yeah.
People's Improv Theater?
Yeah, People's Improv Theater. So we do that every other month. I think last year we were every odd number month.
Okay.
This year we're every even numbered month. So we got a show in February. And then otherwise, I have the Storrs Objection at QED. The next one is coming up March 19th.
And how often is that?
That is, I usually do that this year I'm doing it in the odd number months.
Oh, cool.
So that way
they can either see you at Infinite Sketch in a certain month or see the Storrs Objection.
Yeah.
So Infinite Sketch will be at the Pit in February, and then in March will be the Storrs Objection.
Yep, here at QED.
Here at QED. Yep. And Astoria, Queens, the best neighborhood ever.
It's the best, yeah.
And where do they find this stuff online? Are you MT Storrs? Are you Matt Storrs?
Yeah, it's MT, like Matthew Thomas.
T. Okay.
Storrs, STORRS, and that's on all social media handles. You can find me there. Also, storrscomedy.com, where I will update stuff occasionally.
But you're more updated on MT Storrs across social platforms.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm going to post, and share. And
the hilarious jokes and stuff like that.
Well, I like to think that they're funny.
Well, I follow you on Twitter, and that's how I contacted you, because I was like, who's this funny motherfucker on Twitter? I got to find him.
Oh,
But one thing that's so interesting to me is the Storrs Objection, because as a former lawyer, there's nothing more interesting than the format of adjudicator Matt Storrs.
Yeah.
That's his role for this show. And so there's comics going up, and then do you grill them? Do you ask them questions about what they just said?
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
Originally, that show started in Phoenix, where I'm from.
Oh.
And it was something that kind of got developed when I was in law school.
So did you go? Did you finish? Did you drop out?
I tried to drop out. They wouldn't let me. And
how did they not let you?
My family wouldn't let me.
Oh, so you have all the debt.
Yeah, so and also here's the deal. When I'm not the best with finance. I'm better now, but at the time, based on everything that was going on in my life, and how the job market was, I put stuff into forbearance. Immediately afterwards, because it was like, okay, yeah, gotta get established, gotta get a job.
Yeah.
And then, that made the debt significantly more.
Yeah. But even if you had done income-sensitive repayment plan, it still would have just ballooned like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it would balloon, but then Do
you get penalties if it's in forbearance or something?
No. So basically, what happened was it rolled into the balance.
Okay.
So as opposed to just being the interest, it was now this is your principal.
And so then we're going to charge you interest on what was just interest.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Wow.
So that is not ideal. So I got a lot of debt, but it's fun. But with planning that, I was like, okay, how else can I use these skills? So some friends out there were like, hey, we have an idea for a show. Do you think, you're already, fact-checking? So it developed with me hosting a weekly show and basically it being an open mic overall, but me going up after every comedian and then, trying to find my voice as a host, which was like, okay, this is what they said. This is the stuff that they said. What of it is factually inaccurate? What of it is based on like a logical fallacy or, what issues can I point out that they may not have considered?
And how to do that in a funny way while still being accurate yourself? Can't you just fudge the numbers and say this is, like, if you have a joke that's playing on what might be an inaccurate fact but might not, do you still go with it? Like, who fact checks you?
Usually the people that came up afterwards. The one that I remember most was somebody made a reference to so it was like they were talking about classical composers, and I went up and mistakenly said whatever it was. Who was the deaf one? Beethoven.
Yeah.
So but I said Mozart because I was like, that was like the closing joke, and I'm like, oh, that's totally wrong. And so I do it, and like people laugh and everything like that.
Yeah.
The next guy comes up and he's like, hey, hate to fact check you though, and then does it, and I'm like, and everybody gets a huge laugh out of
that's all that matters, right?
Because exactly, and that's the thing, and so that same sort of format, that same sort of dynamic of fact-checking comedians, but instead of waiting to the end of their sets, doing it during their sets while I'm on stage with them is what kind of developed into the Storrs Objection. So originally I did it with a co-counsel that was on stage, and so we would both interrupt.
Okay.
But that a lot of times it would be difficult for people to follow. So once I moved out here, I tried it a couple times, and then I was like, oh, I've been doing this for so long, I can just do it myself. Like, it's not I don't have to worry about there not being as consistent laughs. Like, everybody's going to do well.
Right.
So basically, comedians get topics based around a theme. I try to make a theme each time.
Yeah.
And then me, and then instead of a co-counsel, I'll have like a bailiff or co-host now.
Yeah.
They'll come out after each of their sets and then fact check both of us.
Oh.
So that gets that same dynamic of like, in the moment, I'm probably gonna be wrong.
Right.
And the comedian might not immediately pick up on me, but the bailiff, the co-host, is gonna be able to be like, oh no, I'm on my phone, I'm gonna check it.
Oh, good. And how are you able to? Because I guess in the moment, like you said, even if you're kind of in law school, that doesn't help you. Might help you be analytical and think through the assumptions that somebody just based their argument on or their joke on, but it doesn't help you know all the facts.
Right.
And so are you constantly looking on your phone, or do you know the people's material ahead of time such that it's easier to fact check?
Yeah, so with giving them topics, I ask that they do research on those topics. And what I found is most of the time when people do that research, that means they're going to do the first page of Google and
Wikipedia.
First paragraph or two of Wikipedia. And
that's perfect.
So if I can get to the third paragraph on Wikipedia, I'm set.
Oh, wow.
And so I can do that. And usually, people don't do... like in 1942, and it's actually 1945. Right. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna catch that.
Yeah. Because that's not funny anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But sometimes people can really start with that kind of dynamic of being like, oh, the dates are just a little bit off.
Yeah.
And then like it'll clue in, and they can use it as a bit.
Okay.
But usually if they're just like a really minor fact that's wrong, it's like, I'm not going to pick it up.
Yeah.
But that would be something that the bailiff would pick up because they can look that up immediately, and that can be an entry point for them to slam them and, make fun of them from there.
So it's kind of roasting. Are you also good at roasting?
And
what the fuck is the role of roasting? I see so many roasts going on in the comedy universe. What's up with that?
Yeah, so roasting, I'm not really... So a lot of the objection isn't necessarily like to make the comedians feel bad feel like they're wrong or anything like that, even though they often are.
Yeah.
It's mostly of trying to maintain accuracy.
Okay.
But if that ends up me, slamming them and, being like, you're wrong, so be it. You know what I mean? I can't prevent that.
Right.
But, oftentimes one of the consistent things that'll be said during the show is like, are you okay? And are you sure you're okay? Because, comedians, they have like a depressive streak usually.
Yeah.
So, there is the aspect of analytical, frustration that is developed, but also the like comforting, like, I'm here to support you and make this okay.
So that's your voice now as the adjudicator. Yeah. And that tends to work well, both probably more for the audience than for the comic, just because it's like they know you're not being mean-spirited, and what you're doing is in a humorous attempt to you're throwing a wrench in the whole show, and I fucking love that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But to your point about roast shows, that's... Ideally, a roast show should be two comedians that know each other really well.
Yeah.
So that same sort of sentiment of like, I know you really well, and I know what makes you like something you would be like insecure about.
Yeah.
So I can make fun of that because you're my friend.
Yeah, I know you thought really hard about buying that shirt, because you can
Exactly.
tell. And I guess that's seeping its way over into the Incestuous podcast, the universe of, I don't know, out in LA, they got the Callan and Brendan Schaub and Theo Vaughn and Chris D'Elia, to the point where Chris D'Elia is now going on stage. Like, he's flying to Arizona to interrupt Brian Callan during his set.
Right.
And it's almost like a wrestling thing where they will try to. But one thing I don't, I like some of those podcasts until they started getting too inside.
Right.
Meaning a lot of inside jokes, and that's kind of why I like getting a new comic for every episode, is because we don't know each other at all,
Right.
and it's not just us riffing on a comedian that we might know that nobody else does. And so, do you think that? I mean, how can you make sure that your any relationship that you have with the comics on stage doesn't fuck with the funny? Because they don't know your backstory. I mean, they don't know whether or not you know this person personally. So you just have to, with your persona, kind of make it clear that you're doing this in jest.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a dynamic of me, I usually I'll wear a suit, and a tie.
Oh, cool.
And so, there's that aspect of kind of being kind of dapper and like very proper. And then I'll have, the table have a table skirt, black table skirt or whatever on
That's
it. And then I'll
cool.
have like my trapper keeper or portfolio, I guess is the more professional term. And like I'll, make a big to-do about unzipping it, and like I'll have a legal pad.
You
and
adjust
then,
the tie before you go in for the jugular.
exactly.
Wow.
And then during their sets, most comedy shows, somebody in the back of the room is lighting them.
Okay.
I don't do that. What I do is I interrupt them when they have a minute remaining, and I say, you have 1 minute remaining. And for the first couple comedians, that is very funny.
Okay.
Because you just don't hear that in the,
It's usually just a light signifying it, right?
Exactly.
And so you're almost being intimidating. You only have about a minute of rope left with which to hang yourself.
Exactly.
And is it right after that minute that you then fact check them?
No. So I'm fact checking
throughout, right?
Throughout, yeah.
Okay.
So if there's like something, if there's like a lull or a instance where they're like, okay, that doesn't seem right, I'm going to ask a question. Usually I frame it from a point of, I'm going to ask you questions about the joke you just told, or say like, well, there could be other people, like they make a mass generalization. And usually that creates a little bit of conflict immediately, because it's like, well, no, like you mass generalized a group
big
of people.
Stereotype,
Yeah, and it's like, well, you don't have the data to back that up.
Yeah.
And, so usually comedians will, just jump in and be like, well, you really shouldn't be. Just let me tell my jokes.
Yeah. So it's like, no, you're on the Storrs Objection, Daddy. Don't you know the rules of this game? And then I guess the couple questions I have are, first of all, do you find yourself at all is this a nice technique whereby you can inject yourself where somebody is kind of falling down or bombing? And the other question I have is, this is so becoming a character that I wonder if you've turned this character into something in your stand-up act.
Yeah. So it is so. The nice thing about it is it's very much, the dynamic on the stage is very much kind of like an improv scene, in that some of it, so we're playing off one another.
Yeah.
And so if a comedian is really bombing and is really having a hard time, that goes into the like, you're going to be okay. Hey, everybody in the audience, they're going to be okay, right?
Yeah, yes,
and
he is.
Yeah,
Clapping,
and they
right,
clap. And then that creates an extra layer of like, because a comedian isn't going to ask for people to support them like that in their own set.
Yeah.
But having somebody being like, I picked up on this isn't working out so well for you.
That's a nice release valve, and it gives him or her an opportunity to think about what they can do next. It gives them a couple seconds of thought. Right?
Exactly. And then like playing, but then all this other stuff of playing off of me. So like a lot of times, like the jokes, the recommendations of what I give them, might not really lead to anything that's necessarily funny. I think the last show somebody had like Miracle Whip as a topic, and it's like, okay, that's a somewhat of a difficult topic to use.
They chose that because I know that the topic was miracles, and then did you divide it up such that one of the subtopics was Miracle Whip? Yeah.
So I give everybody 4 topics. So I do a bunch of research for anything related to it. So I'll start with like very, very specific, like brands or, anything that could easily come up. And then like I'll also give everybody like the first line of a joke.
Oh.
So like, isn't it weird when you expect a miracle to happen and then,
Cool.
that sort of thing. And so see if they like develop that or anything like that. But yeah, so that, helps prevent bombs. So a bomb is less resounding, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's more even keel. And then when the sets are really good, they're really, really good.
Nice.
So that is a really nice dynamic. And then there's always the sets that are just slamming me from the very beginning, and those are great because I'm an easy target. I'm developed.
The character's to stick up his butt.
Exactly. And he's a white guy in a suit telling you you're wrong.
Oh, I love that.
You know what I mean?
And so they're able to play on I'm a person of color or I'm a different gender. And so
anything.
The white man, the mansplaining, the white man tells me this, okay?
Yeah, and it's like, what do you know about any of this? It's
That's cool.
And then it's like, please continue.
I love that.
And it's like,
so you're playing the straight man so that, to get them laughs. Sometimes.
Exactly.
Okay. And then is this character making its way into any of your stand-up acts?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, the style, that dry kind of hyper-specific dynamics are in my were already in my stand-up already. You know what I mean? I was, going back to the development of the fact-checking concept, it was, around the fact of like I was, very early in comedy, very much the guy who was like, okay, I'm going to do, set up punchline, maybe a couple things will be personalized, but they will still be in that kind of format. Yeah. Whereas now I'm a little bit more story-based and like a little bit like each joke is 30 seconds.
That'd be cool though, yeah.
And, kind of more narratively structured. But, that dynamic of providing like hyper-specific, like basically fact-checking my own jokes, adding an extra detail.
Oh, cool.
Which doesn't always play. And that's the nice thing. I have it inserted into usually what I do as my opener. And if I can, if people laugh well to that first one, then I know that I can do them throughout the rest of my set.
And by them, what do you mean?
Oh,
so if it didn't work, you actually you do crowd work via that?
Yeah, well, not necessarily crowd work, but it's like basically kind of a side. So the joke in question, I make a reference to the grimace, right? So, I'm talking about liking the color purple, right?
To grimace, the McDonald's?
The McDonald's. And so
I thought that's what I heard you said. Then you said purple. I was like, okay, you did say that.
Yeah. So so I make a reference to the grimace, and then I explain.
He's the grimace.
Yeah, the grimace.
That's funny. I've never heard the grimace.
And cool. So I will fact check that and be like, I would later learn that the grimace is an anamorphized milkshake made popular by the McDonald's Corporation, and if people laugh at that, I know, okay, that is technically, that is just a factual statement, but it is a string. I've strung words together in such a way that it is, if people picked up on that and enjoyed that, they will enjoy the ones that are going to come later.
The highly particular kind of facts that are just so, I can't believe this guy is spouting that word that he just said, anthropomorphized, blah, blah, blah. It's like, so that you have a nerdy enough audience where you can go there. And if not, if they don't react well to that, you kind of go, the other side of your roadmap is less factual, less nerdy.
Yeah, I mean, the jokes are going to be nerdy, you know what I mean? That's kind of, I can't really escape that.
But it wouldn't just be stating facts.
Yeah, it wouldn't be stating facts. I'll probably do, more standard set where I'm not going to react to my own reactions or react to the audience's reaction. And, say like, which is a, whatever reference I need to make. But yeah, I mean, it tends to work well, and sometimes I can't get out of it. It's like I am in the moment and I mispronounced a word or used the wrong word. Yeah. And then I'll react to that, and then that'll get a laugh because, people will recognize like, okay, 10 to 15% of the audience knew I messed up. And then by acknowledging that, everybody else catches up and is like, oh yeah, he messed up there.
Oh, cool.
And then so that can be a a fun little experience as well.
And does one side of the road map or the choose your own adventure, is one of them funner for you? I mean, it doesn't really matter because they're laughing at both sides, but do you prefer to go down, like you're like, thank God I can do my fact-based jokes today?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not a guarantee they're going to be laughing at both. But I do like, it is a looser dynamic usually if I feel like I can do the kind of like the fact checks and, how, like a lot of times, with, you have a, set punchline.
Yeah.
And okay, I do that punchline. But if I'm flexible and I feel like, okay, I can do this a little extra, I can provide a specific comment or anything like that. If I feel like I'm connected to that, I'm more likely to say something further that might end up like usurping that what I think is the punchline and becoming the real punchline.
Oh, okay.
So that is a really nice aspect. So it's kind of like a flow dynamic that people talk about.
And it's almost like if you're able to be a little bit more free and work some layers, some additional tags in there, it's almost like you could be riding on stage and come up with something entirely new.
Absolutely.
And I guess at any point do you find yourself wishing as a stand-up that there was an adjudicator, Matt Storrs, during your set?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, yeah. I've had people try and flip the script on me and do that to me, and it's great. I really, really enjoy it. Because it's, and seeing it from the different point of view, and being able to, be like, okay, so these are a lot of times people don't give feedback to other comedians,
right?
And so there's instances of like people being, them telling a joke for like 6 months. That's like, oh, you're not really thinking through that this could be offensive, or like, you're missing the opportunity for something that is way funnier because you're so set in the fact that this gets a laugh where it gets a laugh. But if you take it one step further and really objectively look at it, you can make it much, much better. And
you guys don't help each other out like that.
Yeah. And like sometimes people will and be like, hey man, have you considered this tag or anything like that? But by putting it into a dynamic where somebody is kind of adversarial to you in the moment, those sort of things come up. You know what I mean? Like, and like that immediate reaction somebody in the audience might have of being like, oh, that wasn't written well enough for it not to be like make me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And a comedian might not recognize like, hey, that's making them uncomfortable in this way, or like they're misinterpreting, how I'm writing it or how I'm presenting it. And having somebody to be like, hey, yeah, no, wait, what?
Yeah.
And them having to like actually in the moment be like, this is why I said it this way.
But and I guess, absent that though, have you tried to incorporate this, and maybe you are doing it, where it's almost like a Gaffigan thing, where you're talking to yourself, where you say just something generalized. Some moment, because you don't always have a Storrs adjudicator interrupting your set, pushing back on certain things that might make people uncomfortable. Can you work that into your set where you're simultaneously both, you do the generalization and then say, well, actually, that's not fair to this segment of the population because blah, 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 and then just keep correcting yourself and just adding layers of correction. So, where you are both Matt Storrs, stand-up comedian, and also the adjudicator, Matt Storrs, in kind of two different characters, maybe it could be the same voice, but it's slightly
parallel.
Where you're interrupting yourself, correcting the stereotype that you just did.
Yeah, I mean, in my, I try and a lot of what I talk about is, personalized stories or, like experiences that I've had, and, maybe elevated a bit. So when I would do that, it would be, a instance where, this is an extra, like it's unfair. Like I have a joke that references the manatee, the animal, and one of the endings to it, the hyper-specific ending to it, is like, hey, in that joke, I did something really inappropriate.
Oh, cool.
And then I apologize for calling the manatee ugly.
That's fine. Good.
So like if I feel like people are going to pick up on that, it works. And that joke still has, work it needs to be done on it, and it's not, the absolute, there's always room for improvement on everything. But I think it's a good example of how there's always room for reflection, whether or not it's off stage or on stage. Being, cognizant and aware of what you're presenting and being willing to listen to feedback, whether it's from yourself, from the audience, or from a friend, is absolutely instrumental.
And it's such an opportunity for humor too.
Yeah.
To know that you just added an additional joke to Manatee by going back and correcting something that you did, and so you can keep your punch short, but then you can revisit that topic by adding on, well, really what I meant was this, and just another joke. And so if they want to see grimaces and they want to see manatees, they're going to go to MT Storrs across platforms. You're going to be at the Pit, which is the People's Improv Theater, with Infinite Sketch mid-February. Do we have the date on that?
I believe that's the 26th.
Okay. And then in March, you're going to be the Storrs Objection, and that's where you just fucking interrupt these comics, and they don't know what hit them.
Yeah, and it's pretty exciting, and I'll be doing shows consistently throughout that time period as well.
Okay. So they would see the MT Storrs, and the website itself is it Matt Storrs? Because it's not MT Storrs for the website.
Yeah, right? For the website it is. Oh no, it's February 22nd is the Infinite Sketch Show.
In the People's Improv Theater.
Yeah, right? It's the Pit Loft.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Time is relative. Anyway. I'll be there.
Yeah, anyway. When your comedy's in Grimace and Manatee, man, you can't bother yourself with normal time.
Yeah, you're off by 4 days. It's fine. So it's Storrs comedy, and then I pop up on shows. I try and get stuff booked out a little bit, but
you were just on Tristan Miller's show.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, just
the Manic Impressive Tour.
Yep.
I thought that was a cool name.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a great show too. He really does an amazing job.
Yeah.
And so we were over at the Goose Lodge, and then we're, I'm gonna be there actually tonight doing another show, and then, I'm gonna be at Branded Saloon, and so stuff pops up. But those are the, I try and get one pinpoint show of like, okay, this is the thing I'm really going to focus on and put my energy into.
And it sounds like the Storrs Objection, it came all the way from Arizona, and it made some tweaks. Now you only have one person asking questions, and then you have your bailiff going he or she's even fact-checking you, because you find that two people asking questions is too much for the crowd to follow.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah, because back in the day I did moot court, and that was like up to 7 judges, interrupting your argument at the same time, and it didn't leave a lot of time for jokes, let me tell you. That's why we were so unfunny.
Makes it harder, yeah.
But MT Storrs, we're going to find you at MT Storrs across social platforms, and we're looking forward to the Storrs Objection, which is just at QED here in Astoria. And it's been running a long time here at QED Astoria?
Yeah, since last year, yeah.
Okay. Because when you have a great idea like that, it's got to last forever.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Thank you so much, Matt Storrs.
Thank you.